Hello everyone and welcome to tonight's presentation of OTF Connects, a web of tools to inspire vulnerable students with Christina Jozewski-Rodney. And we're thrilled that you are here this evening as well as Christina. We know that you're giving up some of your own precious time in order to further your learning and the learning of your students. And we're always thrilled to have you here joining in with that, those of you that have been in sessions before and those of you that are brand new as well. And we're also excited to have teachers from a good spread across the lower half of the province here tonight. And if I'm just noticing more little laggy symbols, if you have any troubles at all tonight, we kind of roll with it. If you get logged out, go ahead and log back in. It's a 90-minute session. Logging in and out only takes a minute or two, and you won't miss too much, and the recording will be available for you to watch and share later as well. So I'm going to welcome Christina and hand things over to her. And Christina, if you'd like to just flip your mic on, and I'll make sure that all is good at your end.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, that sounds great. Okay, folks, I'm going to put you in Christina's hands now, and enjoy yourselves this evening, and I'll be there in the chat helping you out.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining tonight. I know how precious our time is as teachers and educators. We're always, I'm sure, bringing stuff home with us, and we really do value our PD, but it's amazing and special that you've joined me here tonight to do this professional development, because it is your time. And I just recently went back to work after a maternity leave, so I definitely understand and appreciate that. So what I'm hoping to do tonight is inspire you, hopefully, to try maybe some new things out in your class, or keep doing what you're doing, but maybe show you some tools that could help it to be easier for you to do what you're doing already. So I'm hoping that that clicked. Oops, we've got two over there. All right. Did that flip over okay on your end, Louise, the slide?
Yep, and I'm going to drop that link in the chat.
So what I've got for you here is a quick little survey I'd love for you to just do. So if you can go over to your chat box, you'll see a live link that Louise has dropped there. If you click on that, it's a really short survey that I'd like you to take, and that's just going to be a demonstration of one of the tools, but also to get some background from you. So if you'd like to give that a try, and then when you've completed it, if you could come back and give a green check mark that you've done that, then I know we can carry on.
Ashley and Daryl, who've just joined us, have just dropped a link in the chat, which is in the lower left corner of your interface. It's a quick survey that Christina has put in there for you to wander out into our browser by clicking that link and fill it out and come on back. And if you're on a mobile device, you just need to return to the app to come back into the room.
So Louise, once everyone has done this, I would like to try it as an application sharing, so just in case. Hopefully this goes okay. I'll just wait another moment. I see that most people have had a chance. I think Dana, I'm not sure if you did, or Nicole from the iPad, I'm not sure how that's looking, and Marlene, and Sandy. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is show you that survey that you just took is a survey that I actually created in Google Forms, and although mostly the tools I'll be talking about tonight come from the Google Drive and Google suite of free tools. And so before I go more into that, I just want to show you what that looks like. and how powerful that survey can be in your own classroom and why I like to use these surveys. But it's just taking a moment here. Louise, I'm just seeing a note that comes up that says hosting is paused.
Oh, okay. So what I'm seeing in your application sharing is Web of Tools OTF Webinar 2015. Oh, now it's refreshing.
Oh, I see it now. Okay.
Okay, so now I see you're about to click on responses.
Okay.
And you're going to need to move or close your chat window because it's showing up as a big black square over top of your screen right now.
Ah, so is it better now?
It depends if there's anything underneath. I assume it's your chat window, tall vertical rectangle to the left. I do see OTF Web of Tools, and we can see the entire question and all the options. So your rectangle is off to the left a little bit.
Okay. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to click on responses, and I'm hoping that the pie graph is showing up for everyone there. And I've lost my chat window off to the side, so I won't be able to see yours. So let's just see here. Okay.
Okay, we'll keep you posted.
Thank you. So I'm going to just scroll down. And you can see how powerful this was. In just a quick second, we did this survey, and 90% of you would say that the best statement to describe a vulnerable student would be all of the above, and one person has said that it's mostly about being disinterested. And so if you think about how powerful this can be, if you are trying to get your vulnerable students, those students who really are hard to reach, to do something like this, that's really powerful feedback you can share with them right away. It's as simple as putting this up on your screen. I've asked the question, how many of you have used Google Forms before, or have you used them? And 60% said no, 40% said yes, if you can see that there. And if yes, what do you mainly use Google Forms for? You said to get to know students, staff surveys, and for a variety of tools and administrative signups and surveys. So really, really neat tool to use is Google Forms. And I'm not sure, but I would like to get back to asking you about that when we are further along in the presentation. So I'm not sure, Louise, if I can get back to my screen. If you're able to get me out of application. There we go. So when we are talking tonight, I have actually provided all of my resources that I'll be showing you tonight, including samples, at this website. So if you put bit.ly/web-of-tools into your browser at any time, I'm sharing those with you. So if you take anything away tonight, if you want to use those, you're welcome to look at my samples and even the slideshow itself. Those will all be there for you in that web document. So everything is updated, and it continues to update in Google. Quickly, I'll just give you a bit about me. In the picture here, you can see my new addition to the family, my daughter Maya at the top. She is just over a year old. I've just gone back after maternity leave, and that has actually been really good perspective for me as a teacher, going back after having that time off. And of course, my other children are my fur kids, and you'll see here Huxley and Skeeter, my giant puppies, and that's my mom hidden behind the dog there. So as we're doing this tonight, I do apologize if you hear any barking in the background, or perhaps a small person. But this is, as I said, this is what I love to do, and this is, I don't even know now, Louise, how many OTF sessions we've done together, but I really do enjoy sharing my passion with you. I've been an English teacher for 9 years in the Catholic Board in Hamilton, and I just, over the years, I'm really impressed by what we can provide using technology to our students. More importantly, with technology, we're able to, I think, really help those students that are struggling. And it doesn't have to mean that they have a computer in front of them all the time, but that they just have simply access, even if it's at the library. And that's why I love to use Google, because it is, in fact, free. Our school just recently turned over to be an Office 365 school, and I'm just wondering how many people might be using Google in their schools. If you're a Google school, if you could use maybe a green check mark, I'm just interested to know if you're Google schools. So I see a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then are the other people perhaps signed up with 365? If you want to maybe use just to get an idea of where we are in terms of tools that we're using, because these tools do apply to Office 365. Google does have a few different tools. I just like to use them because they are free to everyone, and that's the equity piece is really important to me as a teacher, especially when we're talking about vulnerable students. So I will be able to tell you that if you're using Office 365, then you have the online account. You can use the same tools in Office pretty much as you can in Google. So I will be talking mostly about Google, but we can also talk about 365 if you want, if you're not seeing the translation there. So I'd like to start just by talking about who are these vulnerable students. And all of you had, pretty much almost everyone had said in the survey that you agreed, I guess, with my definition, but I just wanted to mention this is what I'm seeing, and this is over the years what's been building is not only do we have, students who may have, anxiety about being in the classroom or anxiety about learning, the amount of work they're doing, but we also have, the students that have a learning disability. They could have multiple learning disabilities that could be paired with or on its own a behavioral disability. We're also talking about those kids I think are vulnerable when they're coming in with family issues. And we also are seeing kids who are just not interested in school. And the most important is to take all of these things into account with, I think, the piece that is they might have limited access to something as simple as school supplies and tech. We can't expect that all kids have access to the internet all the time. And that's why I do like to talk about using the free tools, tools that they can get at their library, tools that they can use at lunch in the school. They don't have to be walking around with a smartphone in their pocket. All the better if they have one. They can even access it while they're in class, especially with our bring your own device policy now. And I'm not sure if all schools are doing that, but we really can give them the power to be their own creators, to be creating really powerful pieces with what they have in their pocket or what's available to them in their school. And you don't have to have computers in every classroom. One computer can really be powerful when we do this and facilitate with them. So, that's my side. And here's what I think. I've been talking to a lot of my coworkers about this, and we've been finding that, and I don't know if you agree, but maybe a check mark or a smiley face if you agree with this, that one of the biggest obstacles we're finding right now is that students are afraid. They're afraid to actually participate now because of their peers. They're afraid of being judged. They're afraid of social media and that something is going to end up on the internet, and so they're not even talking in class. So I'm just wondering if you're seeing that same experience, if maybe with a green check mark, if you're seeing that happening in your own classrooms or in your schools. Because it's really one of the biggest things. We're seeing a lot of anxiety now amongst our students in terms of even wanting to present. Sandy said I'm a primary teacher. Yeah, and that's, I think it's just as I'm seeing with my grade 9 to 12, it's damaging. They can't even get up there. And just a simple 2-minute speech is really, really hard for them to do. They get really, really nervous. So this is something that technology can help those students who are also afraid to talk. And I'll be talking about getting them to talk through using different tools. All right, open up my slide. So I think sometimes when, depending on, it doesn't matter, oops, I skipped ahead a slide there. Okay. So depending on what the student is dealing with, whether it's a fear to get up and talk, or if it's not understanding, or feeling like they're not keeping up with their classmates, when we ask them to participate, sometimes they feel like we're on them and we're bothering them. But I think that with these tools, we can make them feel part of the conversation, and that they're able to use it and show their friends how to use these things, and to be confident because they are creating. I think when we create something, we are proud of it, and the students, that they really take pride in what they're creating. And making it powerful for them with these tools, as you'll see, I think really does bring a pride to what they create. So in the class environment, what I'm finding too, just coming back after, like I said, a year, is I really, we noticed it before, but kids love their music. They're walking around with those headphones all the time, and we try to, tell them to make sure they're paying attention, but they love their music, and this is the way in. So what I've started to do is actually use this to my advantage. So sometimes if we're doing some reading in class, I will put this as background, and just having music in the classroom, I don't know if people have used this, really has a calming effect and can bring unity to the classroom, and then it gets them talking about what kind of music they like. So what I've started doing recently is creating playlists in YouTube, so that YouTube doesn't have to be just for videos, but it can be your class playlist, and you can now have your students, commenting and saying, well, yeah, why don't we add this one in? And it's really nice, and it doesn't have to be music with lyrics. I like to use just different soundtracks that will just add to a peacefulness in the class environment. Has anyone had given this a try or played music in the classroom while their students are working? Just maybe with a green check mark. Marlene said yes. And Marlene, what tool do you use? Do you use anything on the web or just like a CD? If you want to, I don't know if you want to comment on that. Some people are saying yes.
Can you hear me? Oh, wonderful. Yes. Well, in my classroom, I use a couple of things. I use color and I use classical music. And I find that because I have a continuum of students, they're on such extremes, really low or really high, and I find that both respond very well to the classical music. However, I do like the idea of using the class playlist to get their attention, and I find they love it. And I also use music during art, so they're able to bring their devices and plug in, use something personal, and they actually love that, and we incorporate a lot of music with our art.
Thank you so much. That's great. I love that. And we have to, I think rather than fighting it, we have to use it, right? Because often we want them, maybe pull out their headphones, but they are really good at actually multitasking and having some music on and still listening. It's like, yes, I still hear you. But it really is powerful for them. It does really help them to focus. So, the dynamic of the classroom is changing. We know this, and I think there's some real merit to having, just something as simple as music, to help them. And that will get, those vulnerable students on side and paying attention. So the next thing I would talk about is how, which sounds ridiculous, but anonymity to actually promote participation. I think that, students love to comment. They're on their social media sites all the time, and they're happy to comment on things. So if we can create that same kind of dynamic in the tool that we use, we can get a lot more discussion going once they've posted something. So I use that again and try to use it to my advantage. So what I'm talking about here is a problem that I'm noticing right now. I have a class of 30, and let's say 3 are actually talking. It's painful, and so what I've done is I've tried different things, and this is just one example from one of my classes, not my only class, but this is one of the things I'm seeing in my grade 11 university courses. They don't want to talk, and that becomes really difficult when you're trying to talk about a novel and some big issues. So I have always used this for different reasons, but I love Padlet, and I'm just wondering how many people may have seen or used Padlet before. If you don't mind, just give me a green check mark. Or a red X if you're not sure what this is. And I'm not sure if everybody knows, but the checkmark tool is just underneath your name. I think Louise went through that. Okay, so not a lot of people. Marlene has. While people are checking that off there, Marlene, how do you use it in your classroom? If you want to comment.
I use it for math.
You use it for math? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. That's interesting. I like that.
And we get a chance to, whenever someone, my class loves to talk. At the beginning of the year, I set it up so that instead of just randomly talking, they respond to something that someone else says. So that keeps the conversations going, and they bring a lot of their own personal experiences into the conversation. So they do love to talk. But when we're doing math, I find that some of them are a little bit ginger about sharing, especially their band show. So we use it, and they're able to sort of all plug in. We go into the same thing, and they plug in, and they just sort of throw their answers out. and then we discuss it that way. They don't have to put their names, but we just discuss it, and everyone feels safe.
That's great. And again, thank you for sharing. Marley, what grade do you teach?
I teach grade 6.
Okay, great. So it's nice to see them in the junior grades too, yeah. Because I think too with Padlet, it's great. Just have them, post one. There doesn't have to be a name attached. I like to do that depending on the activity to not attach a name. And then as we get more comfortable, yeah, they can attach a name to it if they want to. And it's a really quick tool. What it is, for those that are new to it and haven't used it before, it is essentially a sticky note wall on the web. And I'll show you a couple samples, and then I can actually show you a web tour if that works for us. But it's free. You can use your Facebook account, your Twitter account, your Google account to set it up. And I actually have my students use this for a number of different reasons. But it really is a neat way to even organize notes, and they're always there to go back to. So it's really, really neat, because I'm sure you probably use sticky notes, like literal sticky notes in the classroom to do different things. This way you have it saved, it's beautiful, you can even use it to present. So I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. Here's a sample of the power I think that it can have. You can use it as a minds-on activity to get kids, talking, and they don't have to actually talk until you bring it up in class and project it, say, at the front of your classroom. They feel, wow, like my sticky note is being talked about, so they take ownership in that. And you can really do a lot of higher level thinking with it. You can put it together with imagery and videos. You can actually embed little video clips right onto the sticky note wall. So I'll show you that I did this because, as I said, I have that class that doesn't want to talk. But then I started to see things like this, and I'm hoping everybody can see their screen right now. One student, I asked them, what would you put in a utopia? What would your perfect world look like, before we started reading Brave New World? And Matt wrote, the world would be a perfect place if there was no poverty. In my opinion, everyone should be able to have a roof over their head and food on their table every night, not just some nights. And I thought that was extremely thoughtful. And it's something that I wasn't hearing out loud in my classroom, but it's something I could share. It's something that they could all look at. And I asked them to pair it with a thoughtful image that highlighted their belief. Here's another one. Gabby wrote, I believe the world would be a better place if we made more time for social interaction rather than social screening. We base our connections on face-to-face experiences in lieu of reading a profile. And I think that picture there is extremely powerful. I think we've all experienced this. We see this happening in our own society. We're not talking to each other anymore. We're looking down at our phones. And it was powerful that this was coming from a grade 11 student who recognizes the problem. And I'll share one last one here. Rachel wrote, I believe the world would be a better place if people weren't hypocritical. If humankind stopped pretending to be something they're not, there would be more trust in our society. And I just really found it nice to see the thoughtfulness that was happening, but I wasn't hearing it out loud. So, again, there's this pride when they post this sticky note and they can see other classmates. You can see this as a dialogue happening on the screen. And I see that Louise even said that her 11-year-old likes to use it, and it's great. Oh, and you also said using it as feedback, one for the work and one for the feedback. So that'd be great to use it as a feedback tool. Here's where the higher level thinking I thought was pretty neat. So this is one that we did in class. They had to pair a quote with their significance and then make a connection, and you can see it there. So there's a lot of room. This doesn't just have to be, it could be very simple as a survey tool, have them post something, and then it can actually be taken to another level here when you start having them do some other thinking with it. And I think there is a question. I'm not sure. Is that a hand up?
It's me, Christina. I have a question.
Oh, it's you, Louise.
It is, but I do have a question. And I noticed on some of the other ones that Matt's name was there and Rachel's name was there. Do you make it an expectation that they will include their name when they post something on the Padlet, or do you give that as an option to them? How do you work that out in terms of that anonymity piece that you were talking about earlier?
So just depending on the activity. So for that one, I said, just let me know what you think, and then they were able to put their name or not, and they all did. So I don't know if it's just that they felt, yeah, like this is what I want to say, but they could not include their name. They didn't have to. It was a suggestion to them. So I said, if you want, include your name. And it's really not that typing piece where the name was. It's just you typing in your name or typing in a title. It doesn't have to be there at all. There's not a section for name. So I'm going to try to do a little screen or web tour here, and we'll see if this works out for us. Can everyone see? Hopefully you can see that sticky note. If you can maybe give a check mark if that wall is coming up for you, the screen sharing. So I see a couple people can see it. I wonder if there's some lag. Oh, more check marks are coming here. Okay. If you're having trouble, you can type to us in the chat there, or maybe a red X if it's not there for you. What I wanted to show you though is this is a really neat tool if you wanted the students to use this as maybe even a presentation feature, because when you click on the note, it goes into presenter mode. So can you see how that pairs there? I don't know if my screen, hopefully it's staying up to date there with you. So I'd love for people to, I know that not a lot of people have used it, so I'd love for people to give Padlet a try. I'm wondering if I can actually take you to Padlet.com and I can create this for you. Are people interested in seeing how this tool works or how to create it? If you want to throw a green check mark in there, then I can show you that. Louise, are you able to hear me okay? I'm just wondering, I see that Marlene wrote that my voice keeps cutting out.
Yes, no, I can hear you okay. And folks, let us know if you're having any issues with cutting out. Marlene, I do think it might be your internet connection, because I know you had issues earlier, but also the application sharing that Christina just did is a little bit more challenging on bandwidth. And once we come back out of that, it should settle down.
Okay. All right. Well, is there something I need to do on my end then? Or?
Not a whole lot that you can do about your internet connection. Christina is demonstrating a little further with Padlet.
Okay, so I'm just, hopefully people can see my screen. If you visit Padlet.com, it's really, really easy to get started, but I'm just going to show you here that once you do create a wall, if you visit Padlet.com, and Louise has put in the chat there, it's as simple as double-clicking on the space, and it will type and pop up a note for you. You can see, hopefully on my web sharing, that there is a note here, so I could type in my utopia, and then I could begin writing. And I'm not going to finish this, I just want you to be able to see this, but there are a number of buttons at the bottom of the sticky note that would allow me to add an attachment, voice, video, picture, and you can actually search the web for any link and pop it in there, and it will let you add an image. Then you can start playing with background. It is a really neat tool to use and really user-friendly once you start playing with it. And these sticky notes don't go away. These save to your account. I should add that. And you can go back. I actually post these into my online classroom, and they're notes that we can go back to if we're using it for studying for a test. We can use it as a review. Students can go back to it, or we can see at the end of the novel what we think the perfect place would be, and in fact what it turned out to be at the end, and if we have changed our ideas. It's a really neat way you can use it for anticipation guide answers to questions. So if people can see that, I will move on. And I'm hoping, Louise, if you could, if you don't mind getting me an application sharing once again. Thank you. And I've included a couple samples on my list of links there for you, so you can look at those samples. if you do have more questions about that, please feel free at the end of this. You can contact me, and I'm happy to help you there. But I am going to go on with another tool, which is Google Forms that I had you fill out at the beginning, if everyone's okay with that. Unless anybody has questions about Padlet, I'd be happy to answer those before we move forward. If you do have a question, you could ask with a hands up or type into the chat or grab the mic. All right, so I will continue. The next tool that I'm going to talk about is Google Forms. That was the form that I had you fill out at the beginning. And such a simple tool. If you use Office 365, I know they do have a survey tool. I haven't heard great things about it. It's a little bit glitchy and it's not as nice to use. But Google Forms is a wonderful survey tool that I believe is another way to get people talking, to get your students talking, those vulnerable students. It's a good way to give feedback to your students. Your students can do peer-to-peer feedback with this form, and creating it is really simple. They've actually just updated this tool to have a lot more templates, and they're quite beautiful. They look very professional. You could use this in all facets of the school. It doesn't have to just be in your classroom. It could be for a team. It could be for anything, really. But it does have a new look, so I will show you a little bit of what that looks like. And if we can, I can even show you how to create one. You could try one out. But I used this in just recently in my grade 9 class when we started a unit on the hero's dream. And what's really neat about Google Forms is you can embed video. So think about, students that may not be, we were talking about the disinterested student, the student that may be struggling with school. This really brings some interaction and some interest to your topic when you can have them say, view the video right from your form and then comment on it and give feedback. Or you could have questions. You could use this for writing quizzes even. You can have them answer questions right online, and there can be a helper video there, a helper text, or an image. There's endless possibilities really with this. So what this looks like when they answer it, I'll just show you in my next slide here. When I click on responses, if it's a worded question, if it's a short answer, then it gathers all the short answer responses for you in one area. It has those powerful pie graphs to show you where the class is at, if you're asking a yes-no question, or like I showed you the multiple choice question. But just recently, I decided to try this tool with giving feedback to the other group members on a slideshow they created. So this really went well, and students really did love getting the feedback in this form. So I wanted to show you what that looked like. So I created Gryffindor, we are studying Harry Potter in 1P, and I created 4 different forms, one for each house. They worked in small groups of 4, which worked out nicely. And I created a form for each of them to view their peers' slideshow and then give feedback in the form. So it was very simple to create and copy. You can make a copy of your form. You don't have to recreate the form every single time, and that's why it's nice too. Let's say you teach a course 1 year, or teach, history 1 year with your grade 4s. You can use this again in the next year and clear the form and use the exact same tool. You don't have to recreate this every single time. So I created the form that you see on your slide there. There's more questions than you can see here, but what I did was I took each section that somebody was responsible for and created a yes, somewhat, or no if it was effective. I even was able to link, if you see there's a small link to the live slideshow. So they were able to view everything at once and give feedback to their peers, and they really did enjoy hearing what their peers thought about their slideshow. So this was just one example. Here's Slytherins, and you can, if you see that banner at the top there where it says Slytherin, you can personalize that with, it could be with class pictures, it could be with class content. Google lets you put in your own pictures now, but there are lots of simple and beautiful banners that you can choose from theirs. So you don't have to design anything yourself. It's all done. It's really a no-brainer. So the live link you can embed right into your slideshow, and they can click on the link to get to whatever material you post for them to look at. And you can see here, with one click from your form, you can see all their responses, and that's what I showed you earlier. Notice you can see the pie graph, and I'm able to share that with the students and on an individual basis and as a group and say, okay, so here's what moving forward you might need to work on when you're presenting your slides. Your section needed some clarity, or people really found your section to be effective. And Louise was saying that even some students enjoy creating their own quizzes. Absolutely. This is something you could have them do and use with amongst their peers. They can do it and have them answer and get feedback. So the really beautiful thing too is if you're using this to create quizzes, if you wanted to make a quiz in this form, you can see them all in a spreadsheet. All your answers can come back to you in an Excel spreadsheet. So it doesn't matter what subject area, it's really, really nice in that you can gather all the material in one place. So if you click select, what happens, and I'll show you just on a web. Oh, I see. I think, Louise, we lost some slides here. There it is. This is what the form looks like coming back to you. So if you're familiar with Excel, Google provides the same thing using their what they call spreadsheets. So I'm able to take a column. If you look at column C, D, E, F, those correspond to each student. And I'm able to just cut and show them their feedback so that they know how they did. And if you're, so as you can see here, I just highlighted one section. So this boy was able to see in one swoop, yeah, I was mostly effective in my slides. I must be doing something right. And then we're able to look at that section and say, okay, what is it about this section that everyone found appealing? And then moving forward, they're able to do their next presentation with more confidence. And so those vulnerable students now have gained some confidence, knowing that, you know, this is what I need to do better and this is what I'm doing really well. And you can actually just share this link with them. What's really nice about everything in Google is that it's online, it's live, it updates automatically. So you can just quickly grab the link and send it to the students if you're using an online classroom, or if you want to share that with them in a short bit.ly, when you shorten the link, you can show them exactly what people thought of their work. Now I think, Louise, that we are not all the slides, now we're short on the slides, but while we're doing the slides, I can actually show you what that form looks like when you create it. So would people like to see what a live form looks like, how you would create that? If you'd like to see that, if you want to just green check mark, I can go ahead and show you how easy it is to create a form. Okay, so I know it's a little bit, it's lagging a little bit, but if you have already used forms and know how to make one, if you need to take a bio break, then I will just show this for a few minutes and then we'll go on to the next tool. So for those that do want to see this, I will show you using my Google Drive. So I will start by saying that you need to be signed into your Google account. So if you have a Gmail account, it's as simple as that, and from any Google page, you would sign into what's called your Drive. And I'll show you what that looks like through web sharing. And hopefully people can see my screen and are familiar with Google. It's really, though, all you're seeing right now is that I'm just signed into my Google account. So your Drive is just your cloud sharing and your cloud storage, as simple as that. So when you're in Google, you would click on, and you can see I have lots of files here, you would just click on New, and hopefully everyone can see that pop-up box which has that drop-down menu. Right now, it doesn't appear there because you have to click on More. And if everyone hopefully is seeing this, I'll just hover for a second, and you can see that it says Google Forms. And hopefully everyone's okay with that. Clicking on Forms, what pops up for you is just a purple form. It's very blank. And here's where you would be able to create all your different types of questions. Multiple choice questions, short answer questions, long answer, questions with data. And there's a lot of flexibility here for how you want this to look. So I will just try to show you briefly, because I don't know how laggy this will be for us. If I click on the untitled question, I could say, as I asked you, how many people have used forms? And then I can start typing in, yes, I have, no, I haven't. And hopefully people are able to see that. And you can change your question type very simply to checkboxes, a drop-down menu. You can add multiple choice grid. There's so many options here. The more familiar you become with this, the more options you have. But it is, and there are a lot of how-to videos on YouTube. So if you're not sure how to create a form, I can direct you and I can post that into our links. There's a lot of videos to show you how this works. So, not taking too much time here. If you wanted to, as I said, personalize this, then you can change the color of your form, or you can change it to a picture, and it could be a personalized picture, one that you upload, but there are a lot of templates that exist here now. They've just changed this form. It's quite beautiful. Lots of options now. And like I said, you could use this as, you know, an invitation to parents if you had an event coming up at your school. But going back to our students and our vulnerable students, it's a really neat way to poll the class and have them do tasks online. If they're using technology as assistants, they can do their tests online. They can do a quiz online, and then you can go about embedding videos, images right from the quiz here. Sharing is a breeze. If you look at send, I'm going to click on send here. You would just send the link to your class. You could send it as an email. It's quite simple in terms of sharing. And it gets stored in your drive. So if you make a change to a question the night before your class, it will update automatically. You don't need to repost that link. You don't need to do anything else. It saves automatically, and that's also why I love Google. So if people are okay with that, if that helped, I hope. I know it was a really quick start to form. I will move forward. If you could just indicate with a smiley face or a green check mark that we're good to go, we could move forward, unless you have questions about forms. And Louise, if you don't mind getting me out of that application again. Okay. Is someone hopping on the mic? I'm not sure.
I clicked mine on for a second, Christina, and let you know everything looks good, and part 2 is all loaded.
All right, thank you so much. All right, I have just discovered a really neat tool. I don't know, I found it exciting. This is not a Google tool, but you can put it onto your, if you are using Google, you can actually put this right into your drive and save this application, but you don't need it. It's free on the web if you visit studystack.com. StudyStack are virtual study cards or study notes, or if you want to think about cue cards. And I'm really excited about these. I've only started to play with these, but if you've read Brave New World, it has a lot of challenging vocabulary. And so what I found for my students is there are actually, someone's already made them, and you can make your own. You could actually do these with your class, but you can decide what words to have them study. And you can do, on one side is the word, on the other side is the definition. And it lets them actually organize which words they know, which words they don't know, and it times them. So it's a neat little way for them to learn new material. It could be vocabulary in a lesson that you're doing, could be different countries or geographical locations. If you take a look at your screen, these are all of the different categories that already exist. These are free flashcards that already exist and you can use right now in your classroom. So I thought it was a really neat find. I don't know if people have already used this before. Has anyone used StudyStack? Maybe red X if you haven't, green check mark if you have, just so I kind of get an idea. Because I am going to give you a chance to play, to try this out, see if there's material for your classroom that you could, use tonight. You could use this in your class tomorrow. They're really, really neat because it doesn't require you doing anything. But you can create your own with when you sign up for it. Just log in rather. And there's no charge, which is nice. Free is always good. Okay, so I'm not seeing people have not heard of this, so it's just a new find.
Christina, quick question. Is this a tool that the teacher might need an account for, but the students don't once something's created?
Yeah, students don't need an account. Nope. So if you've created it, you just share it with them and they can use it. So this is what one of them looks like, and I will show you. We'll go out on a web tour in a second here, but what happens is once they click on the card, it will flip to the definition. So they can first see if they know the definition, try saying it out loud to themselves, and then turn the card over, and they can check the definition on the other side, and drag and drop the cards into the know pile and don't know, and then they can actually restart it and try them again, and it times them. So it kind of gives them an idea of, do I really know those terms? It's a nice little way to get those kids to build their confidence. Or, sorry, someone said, can you put a picture? I haven't been able to yet, Sandy, I'm not sure. I've only tried some of the vocabulary ones, but if you want right now, we will be able to visit that site and just play a little bit for a couple minutes so you can see if there's something in your content area that might be useful to you. I know that in PD it's always great if you can walk away with something to use in the near future. So I'm going to see if we can do this in our sharing and share my screen with you. So hopefully there's not too much lag. I'm seeing a little bit, but you can see the site. I'm going to click on this card here on liturgical, and you see that the definition pops up when I flip it to the other side, and I can say, okay, I know this one. And if you can see my screen, it actually is timing me right now. It says 17 seconds in already. And I can then just say, oh, I don't know what this satiety means. I'm going to put it over here. So it's quite neat, and it's great for the students to test themselves. And you know, they do enjoy it from what I've seen so far. And it does seem to have some neat features like being able to say the word out loud to you. So that's another feature for vulnerable students who may feel, you know, I'm not quite sure the pronunciation of this word, and they can really start to build some confidence with this tool. So if you are interested, you can, we'll take 2 minutes or maybe 3 minutes. I'm just looking at our time here. If you'd like to give this a shot and see what's there for you to use on StudyStack. So Louise, if you don't mind getting me out of application sharing, we do have, I think, the link in the chat to StudyStack, and you can give this a try. And then when you're back, if you can just indicate with a green check mark, I will carry on. And then we'll say it's 8:26 now. 8:30 we'll start back. Louise has shown us here that the timer will go off when we're done. And if you do have questions about anything that I've said so far, you can take this opportunity. We can chat if you'd like, or post in the chat and I can answer that for you. All right, hopefully people were able to do a little searching. I'm just wondering people's thoughts, what you did find, or if there's anything you wanted to comment on regarding the StudyStack. Sandy, I see you're saying I love this tool. It's just not preemptive. I wonder if it could be something that if you did make your own cards, you could use, because you would have to edit and make your own cards here, you could use as a teacher at the front of the classroom rather than say like them on the site by themselves. But first you'd have to design that stack of cards for your class depending on the subject area. That would make it, I think, more user-friendly for the younger grades. You can submit your own cards, but you do have to sign up for an account as far as I know. So these ones have been created already by students and teachers, but you can, in fact, make your own. All right, so I'm going to move forward, and hopefully you will be able to use something like that. It didn't cost anything for me. I don't know what though. There might be some paid for features. I'm not sure yet, but a lot of these things, you know, depending on the point you get to. But what I've seen so far is not. There hasn't been any asking for payment yet. So I do want to talk now about how, and I was talking about this in the slideshows, how collaboration is key and why I think collaboration is so important for those vulnerable students. Often we have, a lot of students who are on the sidelines and are afraid, to get up and talk. And when we can have that collaboration online, it often then translates to more confidence in the real classroom rather than just online. So, oh, and I see Louise, thank you Louise, amazing, has found the French link for study stats, so there it is. But I wanted to talk about that vulnerable student in terms of how we can get them on board when we are doing things like collaboration. I'm going to go back to Google again, talking about Google Slides, which is Google's version of PowerPoint. And if you have Office 365, then you have PowerPoint online. You can use this tool. It's very powerful. It's the same idea here. So essentially what we have here is just the ability, and here again, as I mentioned to you, for the student in your class, no matter what the circumstances, can have, as much at their fingertips and create a powerful presentation, a dynamic presentation that looks as polished as a student who may have a ton of access to tech at home. So it doesn't matter where you are. Google constantly updates. You never have to have it stuck on a computer. It's not on USB. You don't have to worry about students not having the updated version of something. It's always going to live in the cloud, and that's why I love to use it. But if you're looking to build in that release of responsibility, this is where you can do it. You can guide them with Google Slides, and you can start them off. You can create the template even for them and have them. I've done this as a class. We've created slideshows together, and then in small groups. And now we're working towards our culminating activity for my grade 9s. And they now have the power to create these slides on their own because we've done it, and I've modeled it, and they've gotten feedback from their peers right within the app itself or within the Google Slides. So, oh, I see, Louise, we did lose some of our text here. So Louise and I were trying to get our slides in here.
Okay, that is the lost in translation when it goes from what it should look like to what it should look like. You know what? I'm going to be able to fix that in 2 seconds. So
oh, it's not a problem. Not a big deal. I can tell you what the slide says. Not a problem. At the top of the slide, it said Harry Potter, how to play Quidditch. So I have my students look at one little task in a novel, and so then they don't have to, find it overwhelming when we do our bigger, slideshow, let's say when they're on their own. And I think what's important about having them do a slideshow together is that you can then say, okay, here's what's good about a slide, not too much text. Here's, the do's and don'ts, and we can look at their own slides. Oh, I see some interesting things showing up here. And as I said, it updates automatically. They can work from home or from school. And then now you have a confident student. You have a student who is proud, again, as I was saying, with their work.
Oh.
That's okay. Don't worry. Louise, don't even worry. Okay. Oh, I think we have another one. Okay. So this slide I just was showing you could be in different places when you're using it. And I think this is a really neat thing, too, is we often find, and I'm sure you find this in your classrooms or with students you're working with, one says, oh, but I did this part and the other student didn't do their part. Well, what's nice is they can all work from home. They can all work at school. It doesn't matter where they are. They all have the same access and can do their part from wherever they are. And so you don't have, students saying, well, I couldn't do it because. They always have access to it, and that is really important. So what I have for you, and I know it seems simple, and this might seem uneventful, but it's the learning that went into this slide. So I actually put up a slideshow that we did, one of my groups did, but the important piece I taught them was you have to balance text with visuals and pulling together the colors. And so this student, when he started, had a slide that we probably see all the time, a big paragraph on the screen. Not useful to us, right? This is not a presentation tool when it's full of text. And through our collaboration, he was able to get to this. And this is just the core information he needed. So I know it doesn't look like a big deal, but for this boy, it was a huge deal. There was such a shift the learning for him, the confidence, and people were commenting on how much they liked his set of slides. And so that for him, there were so many pieces in, you know, getting him from that vulnerability to that confidence. Oh, there we go. Okay. And another reason I use slides and things like, actually, I think I might have lost the slide here, but that's okay, and why I use Google Tools is because I don't know if you find this in your own classrooms, maybe a green check mark, but I find that the binder becomes the abyss, or what I call the thing that eats the notes, or, you know, where notes go to die. So I like to back it up with, and this helps, you know, us in a lot of ways. You know, parents will say, you know, can you make a copy of the notes for my student, or for my son or daughter? And this is what's beautiful about it. If you are using online classrooms, just provide the link. Everybody wins, our whole, you know, everyone in the class, not just, you know, certain students. And, you know, you don't have that, well, I lost in my binder. Well, there's always going to be a copy that lives online that you can go back to. So I don't know how many of you are using online classrooms. If you could maybe indicate with a green check mark if you do put your handouts or work online for your students. I know at our school we have both D2L and Edmodo are very popular. We use both of those, but it's, you know, it's really easy to share a Google Doc, and if you make a change to that document, if you make a change to the slides, it updates automatically. So you don't have to say to the students, well, I'm going to upload a new document from Word, which I find to be a real pain. I like that my documents are live and they can be edited. And students can make edits, and we can do things as a class, and the document just grows and changes rather than being stagnant and stuck on, you know, your USB stick somewhere. It's much easier to post these things. I like to use these I will use Google Docs for group reviews. And this is my biggest thing. I always noticed, and it drove me nuts, that if I handed out a review, most of the time it would stay empty. If I said, you know, take this home and fill out the review for our test. Well, why not make that a living document? I have students do this as a class. I'll say, okay, group here, you get on, and I'll put this in our online classroom or share the link and have them fill out that section of the review. So by the end of the class, everyone has a complete review. They can print off the review that we've done as collaboratively as a class, or collaboratively rather, and now suddenly you don't have that blank page sitting inside a binder. You can print it off for them. They can take home the paper, but they can also hop online at home and study from a note that's been completed. And not only do they have a complete note, but they're proud of it because they contributed to that note. So I just noticed a difference in my classroom when I do it like this rather than, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with pen and paper. We have to use pen and paper, but you know, when it's those big reviews, how neat is it to have it there? They can go back to that later. How many people, are people using Google Docs in their classroom? Maybe a check mark again, a green check mark if you're using something like Google Docs or Word Online, if you're creating online documents. Okay, so mixed reviews there. Oh, we've got a lot of lag I'm seeing. Louise, are you able to hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear okay, but we do have a little bit of lag going on.
Okay, so hopefully everybody's with me. I will just talk a little bit about what I mean by Google Docs, and simply I'm saying it's Word Online, right? Essentially it's Word Online, and what I created, though, the links for your webinar tonight are all saved in a Google Doc. I can update it. You could see me type in it. Kids love seeing themselves type, and once they get over that, it becomes, okay, something we could use. But they love to see themselves typing, and their neighbor, you know, 5 computers down is typing. But you don't need to have a classroom full of computers. You could have one computer, and I will often act as the recorder rather than teacher and let them tell me what to fill in, and we can see that all together on a projector, or if you have a smart board, whatever it is you have in front of you. That becomes really powerful when you're just acting as facilitator and they're doing the teaching. So I often let them take on that role. Just today, actually, in my class, because we're getting ready for a test, I use my Google Docs even as virtual chart paper because, as we know, chart paper gets lost, shuffled off, becomes dusty, in the corner of our classroom, and sometimes never gets revisited. This becomes a really neat way to organize your notes. So I like to use it to do brainstorming with my class when we're starting a topic or when we're doing review. It's always there for you to go back to, and again, it's organized and it's not stuck on a piece of paper. And what I find is students, are not confident in writing with the markers, but they're happy to type. So, you get different sizes of writing and fonts on chart paper, but here we have a nice note that everyone can view together as a class. And it's, they can change the way it looks. They can add pictures and video, and it can become actually a very interactive piece of material, not just a piece of chart paper when you do have access. So I want to talk about Google Drawing. Just moving on from Docs, Google Drawing. Has anyone used Google Drawing before? Essentially, if you haven't, I'll just explain that it is like using Paint. But if you have, just maybe a green check mark. If you haven't, a red X. And I do apologize if I can't show you everything tonight in terms of this, but if you are interested, as I said, there are lots of YouTube videos on how to use the tools, how to create something, but I'll try to take a moment to take you into Google Drawing. But I just wanted to tell you how powerful this tool is for your average student who may not have access to things like Photoshop and Paint at home. They don't need to. Google Drawing is that. In our grade 9 classes at our school, we do a media piece where the students have to recreate a book cover. And the Merchant of Venice one is quite outdated if you were to see the play, the book that we have. So it's exciting for them. We talk to them about the principles of what make a good book cover, and they really do enjoy media. This is how you can get a lot of students in your classroom excited about the material, excited about, the hands-on, because they do love to create media. And so if you take a look at this book cover here, this was made entirely through a free app, which is Google Drawing. Here's another one coming up for you. And I think I have a third here. There it is. So what's neat is that this tool, what I'm showing you here is simply, it's a web-based tool, and it's easy to share. You can put this on a class website or a class page. If you have a school website, you could have students creating and really making quite an amazing product. I think this is a pretty powerful tool when you look at the finished product. I'll show you my last one here, which I think is quite impressive. And there's no fancy, this did not cost a thing. This was done in Google Drawing. And Louise has actually, I think, popped a link in there to help you to use that, which I really appreciate, Louise. You're amazing. You can use Google Drawing as a motivating tool because it updates. So right now, again, I'm going back to Harry Potter. This page, and I can show you in that web tool, does update daily and weekly, and the students can see the points when we're competing. They love competition. I do think that's another valuable tool when we're talking about getting our vulnerable students on side. They do love, I feel like kids really do love competition. And so this is what we're doing right now in our class. And they're checking constantly to see what the point totals are at. So this is something I just created. It's really, really simple to do in Google Drawing. And I'll show you that in a second. Another example, just have a list of examples for you when I'm teaching something like writing a thesis statement. Really tough content, but imagine if you're teaching math in your classroom or science, you can break something down with a really nice visual here. You can print these off as well, but you can also save these as JPEGs and use these as pictures. There's so much that you can do with Google Drawing, and it doesn't really take. I'm definitely not an artist by any means, so it's really simple to manipulate these the pieces here. I think I have one more for you. I use it for posters in my classroom as well. I have a program that I started with them called Read It or Leave It, high interest books for vulnerable students that we have access to, with getting them to just do a quick review. And I made our posters using Google Drawing. And if you want, that sample is there for you in my slides, if you want to go back to this. I use this for class notes, and I'm able to print these off for everyone. We tracked, instead of class questions during reading, we look at the important parts of a chapter. And this, again, like I said, I have the students fill these out in their groups. They love to do this. It's quick. And once again, you don't have people sitting there with a blank page, which is what is really hard when we see students struggling to write. You can actually easily create a blank template, so you can create your sample, make it live, and then make a copy of it. There's a button in Google that just says make a copy, and your students can use the blank template to make their work. And they can model your work because it's as simple as that. It's a template. So I'll show you one, and you can feel free to use mine if you'd like it. I had them do a character trait. This could be for anything really, but I show them my sample, and then they can type right into the blank template there. So again, going back to Harry Potter, because as I said, I've only been back a month, so I'm going with what this is all very recent work that we're doing rather than going back to older stuff that I have. But my sample, right, I show them what I'm looking for. There's some higher level thinking happening here. They have to make an inference, draw a conclusion. They have to use images, and these images come right from the web. Google lets you search right inside of it. You don't have to have them with multiple pages open. This is great for our younger kids, and I'll show you that in just a moment. We do have, I think, just enough time for this. But here's an example of a template then. Before I started typing in, I just made a copy, and I'm able to share this with my students. So they have one that looks exactly like mine. I think kids love structure. They like to know what they're doing is right, and they're sometimes afraid to go outside of that until they get comfortable with it. So those students who are uncomfortable or not sure don't have to make it different. They can look just like yours, and they can, if they start to feel comfortable, then they can start playing with it, and they often do. And theirs always look better than mine because they get confident in the end, and it's wonderful to see them creating, because with creation comes pride, and I really love to see them exploring these tools. So in the time that we have left, I will take you on a quick tour of Google Drawing, and then I will ask you if you have questions or want to know anything else or have comments. So let me just get you started on that with an application sharing. And hopefully this will cooperate with us nicely. So you would, again, log into Google, into your Drive, and you would click on New. Once again, when you click on New, it is hidden in a way that you just have to click over to your More menu there. And hopefully everyone can see this. I'm clicking on Drawings, and what you'll see is a blank screen, blank template, with lots and lots of tools at the top. And what's lovely about Google is all the tools look the same if you're in Drawing or Google Docs or Google Presentation. So when all those fancy shapes that I created are simply, like I said, I didn't design these things. It's as simple as dragging and dropping a shape. Inserting an image is made very easy by clicking on the button on image here. You can actually search right in Google for copyright safe images. And for example, if I wanted to search for Harry Potter, and I'm hoping this is appearing on your page, all of these safe Harry Potter images, and it will drag and drop right into your drawing. And we can play. This is much like what you would see on your school computers. And you would layer just like you do in things like Paint and Photoshop, but you don't have to have those expertise. It's really quite simple when you're playing with something. So hopefully everyone can kind of see that, what I did in about 30 seconds there. Another neat feature is that you can add content that's live. If you put a link in here, imagine that if you want to have your class do a project on something, say it's in history, they could link it right to a website that shows some information on that topic. It doesn't matter what it is. They could link it to a song on YouTube if you want to have them, and they could click and use this not just as, you know, a visual in terms of printing a poster, but it actually becomes a live piece of information on the web. So you can insert links just by, you know, copying and pasting them in there. Hopefully people are able to see that. Are people okay with that? Can you see Google Drawing on there? Also, if you could just indicate with a green check mark. Is that okay on your end, Louise?
Yep, once it settles, I can see a nice big Harry Potter sign there.
Okay, and I will just take you over to the one that's got our Harry Potter points, just so you can see what I'm talking about in terms of motivation. Is that coming up okay for people? You can add GIF pictures to your drawing. So if you're familiar with those are moving pictures or objects. Can you see that, Louise?
Yes, the little trophy spinning around
yeah.
there.
We haven't awarded the House Cup yet. So soon, actually next week, with the conclusion of our novel, that will then, of course, move over to the winning house, and the students are looking forward to that. But this is just a really easy way to get my students excited and motivated when reading a book. Like I said, it's really, really easy to do, dragging and dropping. So I guess if people have questions or don't have questions, I am, if you don't mind taking me out of application sharing. Thank you. At this point, I have come to the end of my presentation. And I'm happy to keep this conversation going on Twitter, or if you want to message me there, I'm happy to even, via email. But if you have questions for me now, I know we might have a minute or two, but we are getting near the end. If anyone wants to hop on the mic, feel free.
Wonderful presentation. I think that these resources will be so helpful in my grade 6 class. I missed the beginning, so I think I missed a couple of things. It's Marlene, by the way. But I really love the Google Forms, and I tried to sign in, but I wasn't able to do that. Would you have a couple of seconds just to go through that again?
Sure, Marlene. Yeah, no problem. Thank you. I'll even sign out of Google and sign back in so you can actually see what that looks like. Because yeah, that's the key. Once you're in, you have access to everything. So I don't mind doing that at all. So I'm just going to sign out of Google.
Thank you.
And hopefully you can see my screen. Hopefully. So if you can see on my computer here. Yeah, we're okay?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just signing in now. And of course, it's going to always have some kind of, it might ask you to, in terms of security. But if you can see in the top right-hand corner, there's what looks like a little tic-tac-toe board, or like the 9 squares there.
Okay.
This is where all of your content lives. So by clicking on that set of 9 squares, you'll see all of your Google freebies. But what you're interested in is Google Drive. And that's where all those tools live, is in Google Drive.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, so as soon as you're in Drive, you have access to all of these things.
Okay.
And your students can share, and it's amazing. It's easy. When you click on New, like I said, you have access to all of those tools.
Fantastic.
And as soon as you create something, Marlene, and for everyone that's still with us, those items go right into this space. That's where all those documents go. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think Marlene might be having some lag issues. Again, Christina, if you want to come out of application sharing, we might be able to just walk her through those steps. And Marlene, if you can hear okay, we'll spend a couple minutes with you as soon as we just wind up the end of the session, and we'll make sure that you get connected to other helpful resources that will get you started. So everybody, I want to say thank you for your participation tonight, and a special thank you obviously to Christina for leading us through this wonderful exploration of fun, cool, engaging, interesting tools that are going to give you an opportunity to really pull your vulnerable students into a different kind of web, a web of fascination, instead of the one that they perhaps originally thought they'd be in, which is a little more frightening for them. So whatever the reason that might make them a little bit vulnerable in your classroom, you've got a whole toolkit of tools that are available for you to capture their attention. And actually, a lot of the stuff that Christina shared tonight, Christina has some other sessions as well that she's done for OTF Connects, and I'm going to make sure that you guys have the link for our past webinars and resources page, which is brand new, updated. If any of you are familiar with touring this page, there it is there, and it's completely different now. It's a searchable database. It used to be just a big long list of almost 200 sessions, and now it's a searchable database. You'll be able to put in your grade level. You can search Google tools. You can search different subject areas or different presenters, and find all kinds of resources of other recordings and individual web pages that have all the shared resources, such as the one that we've made for tonight, which is already posted up in the chat. So the resource page there, it's not fully populated with all the links yet, but it will be very shortly, including the recording of tonight's session, which you can go back to and watch as much as you would like, and share it with your colleagues as well. I do want to draw your attention to the big orange Google link in the center of the page, which is also in the chat, and that is our feedback survey, which does use a Google form. And Christina, thanks for pointing out the cool new things that the new Google Forms can do, because I had not switched over to it yet, and I'm going to go and add a banner in there so that our Google form is properly OTF branded, and make sure that everybody has an opportunity to kind of play around with that. The brand new feature as well that is our treat for you tonight is the fact that you can now get a certificate for participating in live OTF Connect sessions. So all of you that are here, you just have to go and fill out that feedback survey, and when you get to the very last page and submit it, you'll get a thank you page will come up, and there'll be a link in it that should take you to a page that will allow you to enter your name, and it will spit out a PDF certificate for you, and you just have to save it or print it. And if you have any problems with that, just send us an email, and we'll make sure you get that. But that will be available for you to complete for 7 days, but we definitely recommend that you do it sooner than later, because things do tend to get forgotten. You'll get a follow-up email tonight that has all these links in it as well. And we can also give you a little highlight of our upcoming sessions that will wind out our fall program. And please do stay tuned for sessions that will be available January through June, and there'll be plenty of elementary sessions in that slate as well. And next week we do have another Google Tools session with Andrew Boronsky. It is also focused on secondary level, but if you want to come and learn a little bit more about each of those features that are there, you're certainly welcome to do that. The Developing Computational Thinking, I should read, through Coding with Brian Aspinall is an elementary session, so those of you that might be elementary are certainly welcome to sign up for that one. And again, we want to say thank you to everybody for your participation tonight, and thank you, Christina, and we do hope that you all come back again and let your colleagues know. So thank you, and good night.